Look, if you want an unbiased review, you better head elsewhere, because me, I've got this axe to grind. Yeah, it's true. I've seen The Lion King. I feel like in some ways this is penance for the fact that I've gotten away with not having to see any of the Disney remakes up to this point. If you haven't seen my previous videos on this, well, link up there, feel free to check them out. But to put it super quickly, I have a massive fundamental philosophical issue with the very existence of these things in the first place. I don't believe that they should exist, and that's not me going, they all stink, because I haven't seen them. I refuse to see them. I will not throw money at these projects. I find them just infuriating on so many levels. Unfortunately, my kid really wanted to see this one, and she loves animals pretty much more than anything else. She likes animals more than people. So I did not have it in my heart to say no to her to this, because I knew she really wanted to see it. And I've now seen it. And like I said, in a way I feel like it's penance, because I managed to dodge all the other ones and instead have to go with what is literally the most pointless one of all of these. So, The Lion King. Yeah, I came in here with a massive chip on my shoulder and a huge, huge bias. Do I think I could have even possibly been slightly open-minded about this? Honestly, no. The only way this movie was ever going to be any good for me, this is not me saying what anyone else should think, but the only way I was not going to hate this movie is if it completely failed to be what the marketing was selling. Because what the marketing was selling was, it's The Lion King in photorealistic animation. But it's the same story with the same characters and the same song and the same plot. And it is. And again, on principle, I hate that and don't want it. So unless it was something completely different from that, I was never going to like this. So it's not a question of how well it does what it sets out to do. I believe fundamentally that what it sets out to do is a thing not worth doing. I believe this entire thing, these movies in general, this one in particular, is pointless on the scale that we have not seen since the remake of Psycho in the 90s. Anyway, let's get into some specific points on this, because I'm not going to retread all my philosophical issues. Again, there's other videos for you to see that. Let's break down this one in particular. And yeah, this is just going to be me complaining pretty much the whole time. So if you can't handle it or you don't want to see it, that's what it's going to be. So there is one thing about this movie that is better than the original. And that is, Donald Glover is a better grown Simba than Matthew Broderick was. Now, not to diminish what Donald Glover does with the part, because he actually does it well, but part of that has to do with the fact that Matthew Broderick as Simba was one of the inherent weak links of the original Lion King. He was okay initially, but when he had to face down against Scar, he sounded weak. He did not sound like anything Scar should be afraid of. He just didn't have any authority or strength in his voice. Donald Glover was able to pull that off. So he is a better adult Simba than was in the original 2D hand-drawn animated version. That's the only thing that's better. The only thing that jumped out to me as being as good while still being different from the original was Pumbaa. Seth Rogen's a good Pumbaa. When he's speaking, he can't sing. Seth Rogen, legitimately can't sing, to the point that I'm like, why didn't you auto-tune him so he's on key? I guess they thought it was endearing that Pumbaa was off key. I don't know why, but so that's about all the praise I'm going to have for this, because it's not just that the animation is photorealistic. They also made the decision to shoot this as much as looking like they had animals who could act and film them, making it look as natural and realistic as possible, which is stupid. It's very impressive on a technical level. It's a very impressive feat, and if anything is ever going to come out of this, I really hope that they take the technology that they have fine-tuned between the Jungle Book and now this, and do something original with it, so that all the effort that was poured into this technology gets put to some good, some use, something not pointless. But the problem with it being all realistic and everything is that it loses the unique visual aesthetic, because you need to remember, the original 2D animated, first of all, those characters way more expressive than anything that is in this live action, because they are cartoons. They're allowed to have more cartoonish expressions. When you restrict them to the actual facial movements of a lion, well, a lion doesn't have a lot of facial expressions, and it puts a heck of a lot more weight on the voice actors, who again are fine, but where you're taking tools out of the toolbox by making it this realistic thing, because you actually severely restrict the ability of these things to emote worth a dang. And it's also with the lighting. Like, think back to the movie. I don't know when the last time was you folks have seen the original version, but go back and look. There are some bold color choices at various points. I Just Can't Wait to Be King goes bright with purples and pinks and oranges, and Be Prepared, it starts out with a sickly green and it builds into this red, and there's some really interesting colors that run through it and help set the mood, the tone, and keep the thing lively and bright and animated. Whereas this, like, it's all muted earth tones, because that's what's natural, and I don't care if it's natural or realistic. It's far less interesting to look at. I feel like this movie right now, it feels like Disney with these things is going through the same problem that has plagued the video games of the last few generations, which is all this emphasis on, oh, make it realistic, make it more realistic. And they forget the question of, like, oh, okay, so it's more realistic. Is it actually more fun? Is it actually more fun to be stuck behind a bit of wall and only get to carry 2 weapons at a time while facing nothing but humans who are on the other side of a conflict, versus a bright, colorful world where I can jump 15 feet with a single button and can carry every single weapon in the game on me at all times? What's more fun? And in very much the same way, Disney doesn't seem to realize how going for realistic really hampers the narrative and the way that it's told. And honestly, it makes the songs stick out like a sore thumb, because they can't go bright and colorful with when the songs kick in the way that they did with the animated. It's still the same muted palette. And so now the songs feel really out of place. And actually, okay, I don't know how they possibly missed this story. There was one thing that I had assumed they were going to do, because this movie's longer. This movie is a half hour longer. Original's 90 minutes. This is 2 hours. So I had assumed part of the reason for that is they added more songs, that they took the songs from the stage version of The Lion King that were created for that with Lebo M, who helped create a lot of the music for the original, and we're going to inject them into this. A couple of, not all of them that are unique to the stage version are great. The Madness of King Scar, that's not worth porting over, but He Lives in You, totally worth porting over. And Shadowlands, how do you get Beyonce as Nala and not give her Shadowlands to sing? It's such an awesome song, and instead they come up with this original song that gets sung as Nala and Simba. I'm gonna be talking spoilers, you all know this thing. When Nala and Simba are coming back to the Pride Lands, there's this very out of place, like I've already said the musical numbers are out of place, but even out of place because it doesn't match the tone and the sound of the other songs that they give to Beyonce. I guess 1, to give her a solo song, and 2, to have a quote-unquote original song in this movie so that they can submit it for the Oscar at the end of the year. So, like, why would you do that? Why did you think that was a good use of Beyonce when you had Shadowlands right there? And if you've never heard these songs, if you've never heard He Lives in You or Shadowlands, just look them up. Find them. Find them, listen to them, Spotify, don't care. They're awesome songs, especially if you like the Lion King soundtrack. And you'll hear those and go, why didn't they use those? Exactly. So, okay. I mentioned the fact that this is about a half hour longer. This is the big thing that I want to drill in on this. The original film, and actually I would say a good chunk of the Disney Renaissance, I would say in particular Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, and Lion King, also Aladdin, but though maybe a little bit less with that one. Those are monuments to efficient storytelling. They run between 85 and 95 minutes, and they do that, telling these complete stories with everything that needs to be there, because not an inch is wasted. They don't spend time over-explaining. They don't spend time lingering things that don't need to be lingered on. And it doesn't mean that those films move at a breakneck speed. They move at a reasonable pace, but they know how to compress things. They know how to accomplish multiple things in one scene. They know when a scene's made its point and when to move on. This film is... this should be taught in film classes, to back, the original Lion King and then this, to show how inefficient the storytelling of this is. Any scene, any line of dialogue that gets I say any scene, every scene gets lifted, but anytime they lift a specific piece of dialogue, in the original, if it was one sentence, in the new one, it's 3 sentences. I've got specific examples. I have notes. Okay, so here's a couple of examples. So, after Mufasa has died, and Scar comes, and he's laying the guilt onto Simba, and he says to Simba, what he says to Simba in the original anime version, the king is dead. If it wasn't for you, he'd still be alive. What would your mother think? And in the new version, he does the lead up. What would your mother think? A son who kills a father. A prince who killed a king. Like, why did you add those 2 extra sentences? They don't add anything. They don't make the point stronger. They make the same point again and just eat up time. Hold on, I've got more. That is not isolated. Okay, the mouse. You remember at Scar's introduction, there's a little mouse. And in the original animated film, it comes out of a little hole in a rock wall, comes out, boom, Scar's paws on it, we start. How does it go in this one? We see the mouse skip through a puddle, climb up a rock, up some more rocks, into the cave, onto a bit of grass. Then Scar finally shows up. Why? I don't know. So, okay, so the lion sleeps tonight when Timon and Pumbaa are singing that. That is a gag from the original. And in the original, they get as far as the chorus once. And then it moves on. This one, they get through 2 verses and a bunch of other animals join in. Why? Because apparently eating up more time makes it somehow more relevant. Oh. Here's the best one. So, remember Rafiki realizing that Simba was still alive. The way that plays out in the original is Simba just kind of collapses on just this edge, and the pollen and like grass and stuff goes up. There is one shot of this stuff kind of blowing across the bit of arid desert between the Pride Lands and where Timon and Pumbaa are, and then Rafiki snatches it out of the air, looks into it with his mystical whatever, and realizes Simba's still alive. That's it. Basically 3 shots. Simba collapsing, stuff going, Rafiki has it. In this one, Simba collapses, a little bit of his fur, it's fur instead of a thing, so we have to watch the fur drift through the air. We have to see it fall into water. We have to see it picked up by a bird, put into a nest, have it discarded from the nest by another bird, have that discarded fur land on the leaves of a tree, get eaten by a giraffe. We then see it in the roll of dung being rolled by a dung beetle. Yes, slightly decent laugh there because it was kind of unexpected, but there's no reason for this to be dragging on so long. The dung breaks up. I think it got caught on the wind again. I can't even remember. No! It got picked up by an ant, and an ant marches along with it, and then it's finally picked up by Rafiki. It takes about 5 times as long. Why? This is incredibly inefficient storytelling. You're taking 3 times as long to make the same point. Oh, and one other, because it happened at the very end, and it really ticked me off. So, basically the hyenas are backing Scar, and Simba's there, and they go after each other. Now, in the original film, as soon as a fight starts, the lionesses, boom, they just get into the fight. No, first we have to stop and hear Nala go, "Lions, attack!" What? Just have them attack! Why do you have to pronounce it. What was the point of that? Okay, I got more gripes to list on this. Timon and Pumbaa are all kinds of meta, which isn't necessarily a complaint, it's just weird. Like, they make a bunch of jokes that only work if you've seen the original, which just more begs the question, who is this movie for? Because there are whole sections and segments and jokes that only make sense if you've seen the original, but it is such a direct retelling, anyone who's seen the original is going to immediately know none of this is new. Anything that's good in this is only good in it because it was good last time. This film adds nothing. There is one good gag that they get to do, though, because in the original, Timon gets in the hula skirt and does his little, woo, are you aching for some bacon? And in this, he starts to sing Be Our Guest from Beauty and the Beast. That was actually a decent joke. I'll give them that. Oh, goodness, what else do we have here? Oh, my daughter even mentioned this one. You can't tell a lot of these characters apart. Again, suffering from the realism. You can't tell most of the hyenas apart. Like, one of them's got a bit off ear. You can't tell most of the rest of them apart. You cannot tell Nala from Sarabi until one of them starts speaking. And also, when they're cubs, you can't tell Nala from Simba until they start speaking. And you go back and watch the cartoon, it is very clear visually the difference between them. To go with Nala and Sarabi, Sarabi is a slightly different shade, her fur, and has different eyes, and because they're cartoon eyes, they're huge, and the fact that the eyes are different colors is immediately evident. Maybe they had different eyes in this one, I don't know. They were little friggin' lion eyes, realistically shaded. I couldn't tell what color their eyes were, so even if that was meant to be distinguishing, I couldn't see it. Oh, God. Because they went with the naturalistic lighting, Can You Feel the Love Tonight? It happens in the middle of the day. And yes, I actually went back and watched the original. It happens as sun is setting, so it is still kind of daylight through most of it, but by the time that song ends, it is sunset, sun is down. By the time that song ends, in this one, the sun is still beating, like, it's headed down, but it's not even like the red light of sunset. No, that's still proper sunlight. Can You Feel the Love Tonight? Doesn't even go into the night. Happens in the middle of the day. Because they went with naturalistic lighting, which means you wouldn't have been able to see anything at night. And apparently that's more important than having the song make any freaking sense. Oh, and they did a weird thing with Scar, where he's more threatening. And as far as differences in performance, that's a valid way to do it differently so that Chiwetel Ejiofor gets to deliver a different performance than what Jeremy Irons did, which was very much in the sort of, gay-coded villain. I'll talk about those at some point down the line, but it's a very different feel, and that's fine. Here's the problem, though, because as much as I might complain about gay-coded villains, in the case of something like The Lion King, it does actually serve a little bit of a purpose, which is that because Scar's, sarcasm and his backbiting is so just snark, and it comes across more as him just being sassy, nastily so, it becomes more believable that Mufasa hasn't dealt with him before this. Here, he seems deathly serious, and it really feels like Mufasa should be taking him way more seriously. And actually, they even added a bit of dialogue that Scar has challenged Mufasa previously and lost. Now Mufasa looks really stupid for keeping him around. You could argue he was stupid for not doing something about Scar ahead of time in the original, but compare it to this, night and day. You could make an argument before, like here, no, he's openly, severely hostile, and not in a way that could be written off as just, that family member. No, this guy feels threatening and he feels dangerous. Oh, and the hyenas aren't fun anymore. Like, some of them have jokes, but Shenzi, who was voiced by Whoopi Goldberg in the original, they turn her into a mini-boss, I guess, so Nala can have somebody to face down at the end, but she's all serious and stuff. But the thing is, Whoopi Goldberg was fun as a hyena, but she was still scary when she needed to be. There's a moment when they first show up and Simba and Nala are running away. Simba scratches her face. That's a scary moment from that character. You could have her be intimidating, but still have her be fun. What happened to fun? Can't we have fun anymore. And one more thing, and again, just sort of emphasizing, who is this movie for? Because it seems certain elements of it seem to only work if you've seen the original, but if you've seen the original, then you've seen this done better and more efficiently and more colorfully, and that is Rafiki's stick. So Rafiki, he's the monkey. I don't know exactly what kind of monkey he is, but with Simba and everything. So in the original, he's always got his stick. First time he shows up, he's got the walking stick. He dangles like the melons over the kid. And actually the stick even serves a purpose. It's a terrific metaphor that he uses to literally beat some sense into Simba. Great stuff. They cut that, kept all this other crap and cut that. But here was the really bizarre thing. Rafiki doesn't have a stick until right before the final scene. He pulls it out of his tree that he lives in and he goes, "My old friend." What old friend? We've never seen this stick before. It has no basis for anything. We have no reason to understand what the heck he means by that. The only reason the stick would have any meaning is if you've seen the previous one and he's gonna beat hyenas around the head with it. But we've never seen him with this friggin' stick. I did not enjoy this movie particularly much, if you couldn't guess. This is the epitome of pointless. And I'm not thrilled that I saw it. I think I'm done. I'll just point out, it's a half hour longer, but there's maybe 3 minutes of actual substantive new material. Basically, they had a thing about Scar wishing that Sarabi was his queen. That's 3 minutes. And the rest of it, the other 27 minutes of at a time, it's the inefficient storytelling that I was talking about. So, The Lion King. Have you seen it? I'm sorry. What did you think about it? How mad are you at me that I just spent this time ripping into it top to bottom? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Whole bunch of stuff you can do down there. The like button is a big help these days, but you can also subscribe. Share this video. Share my bio with the world. You can also support this channel at the Patreon link down below. Helps me cover my bills. Plus, there's other stuff down there below. Click on it. It'll take you places, but you also don't have to. I'd appreciate it, but at the end of the day, folks, you're the council. I'm just running the meetings and griping about CGI lions. And until next time, this council is adjourned.